Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Should You Play, where I show you some spoiler-free gameplay and give you my thoughts after playing new games for a few hours, while also highlighting and checking out at least one of the PlayStation Plus games for each month. In this video I'm playing Bleach Rebirth of Souls, the anime fighter game based on one of the original big three anime and manga series, Bleach. I've been a fan of Bleach pretty much ever since it first aired on late night Cartoon Network, and I couldn't be happier that the Thousand Year Blood War arc has finally been adapted. Being an anime fan who plays video games is tough though, because so many of them have felt like low-quality cash-ins. Rebirth of Souls fortunately does a good job in most areas, but I still have some big issues despite enjoying the game, so let's just get into them.
Now then, let's begin.
Rebirth of Souls puts players into the world of Bleach, which follows Ichigo Kurosaki, a teenager who is unexpectedly granted the powers of a Soul Reaper and is thrust into a life where he battles against Hollows and various other opponents to protect the balance between worlds.
Are you out of your freaking mind?!
The game's story mode takes you through most of the series, but it's important to note that it doesn't cover later events such as the Fullbringer or the Thousand Year Blood War arcs, which may be a disappointment to longtime Bleach fans looking for a full series experience. The story mode itself is incredibly comprehensive though, showing you some pretty extensive cutscenes and letting you play out key battles against characters such as Grand Fisher and Renji. And even after spending about 2 hours in it and not having reached the infamous Ichigo vs Byakuya fight, I'd guess that it would take maybe 20 hours to get through completely.
Let's go and hear the rest of the story.
If you're someone who's already read or watched the series and don't really care about the cutscenes, you do have the option to skip straight to the fights, though it's also worth noting that there's an additional secret story mode that will let you play through other characters' viewpoints as well. Rebirth of Souls has a few different modes that you can play through. The main mode is the plot-driven story mode, where you can go through Ichigo's journey from start to near finish.
But this is just the beginning.
If you're looking for a more traditional fighting mode, you can head over to offline mode, which lets you train, battle against CPU opponents, or challenge a series of opponents in missions to earn rewards.
There's still so much more to play.
For those of you who are more experienced with these games, online mode allows you to fight against other players with default or custom settings, and if you're new to the game, you can just go straight to the tutorial mode.
Let's start with the basics.
Rebirth of Souls currently offers a roster of 31 playable characters, with Ichigo available in 2 forms, bumping it up to 32. You're able to pick from a good selection of Soul Reapers and Espada, among a few other characters. However, I think that the roster is currently way too small. Notable characters like Ukitake, Baragon, Yumi Chika, and all of the Visors aside from Shinji are absent, and while it's likely that future DLC may address this, it's a bit disappointing to have so few at launch.
I don't know what to say, but I'm sorry?
I know other anime fighters like Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer tend to have less, and maybe I've been spoiled by some of the Naruto and One Piece games, but even discounting the Fullbringers and Quincy's, Bleach is such a character-rich world with so many unique abilities that it's hard not to be a little disappointed. Rebirth of Souls is a 3D fighter with a focus on back-and-forth combat. The game's mechanics are more grounded than Arena Fighters, with movement that's closer to the Clash of Ninja Naruto games rather than the Ultimate Ninja Storm series, and it encourages a slower and more strategic pace that initially took me by surprise given how fast Bleach characters normally are in combat. You do get used to it after getting the hang of the controls and playing a few matches, but I can't say that I didn't find myself wishing that movement was just a little bit quicker.
You're slow, even to fall.
Winning battles in the game doesn't come down to whoever dealt the most damage. In simple terms, it has more to do with who lost the most lives. Unsurprisingly, attacking your opponent causes them to lose health, but once they've lost about 2/3 of it, they become vulnerable to ultimate attacks, which can take away multiple lives, depending on the character, the ability they use, as well as other battle circumstances.
I get it. Well, more or less.
There's a surprising amount of depth to the gameplay that would take me far too long to explain properly in this review, so I highly recommend playing through the tutorial so you can learn everything you need to know, even if you're familiar with similar games. As for online play, there's definitely room for improvement. Right now, matchmaking is a major issue, with some of my searches taking upwards of 10 minutes to find a single opponent, and I'm hoping that this will get better over time. When you are finally able to connect to a game, the experience does tend to be stable thanks to search settings that prioritize connection quality. However, gameplay itself can still be brutal, not because of the game itself, but because of the players.
Oh, guess I should get serious.
I've played a lot of online fighter games, and you're very often going to be pit against players who have mastered every combo and technique to grind your character into dust, and Rebirth of Souls is no exception to that, even at launch. Fortunately, if you do find that you're getting crushed on the regular, you can still play with friends online using room passwords, or even just get a second controller and enjoy some friendly local battles.
Like friends.
The graphics in Rebirth of Souls are a bit of a mixed bag. Character models and designs are solid, but most everything else falls flat, with blocky shadows hanging off of fighters and unappealing textures sticking to the battlefield as 2 of the biggest examples. While the cutscenes are generally better than other anime fighter games, they still lack polish with their look and animation, especially with the clouds that seem to be on a loop in this cutscene, as well as Yamamoto's fire attacks that appear to be at a lower frame rate. On the sound front, Rebirth of Souls shines with its music. The game blends iconic tracks from the anime with original compositions, and the result is a dynamic soundtrack that complements the action without ever becoming overwhelming. A standout feature is how the music evolves alongside the character transformations, with most of the evolutions being accompanied by a unique theme.
Do you understand now? No big deal like that.
Ultimately, the music not only pays tribute to Bleach's soundtrack, but elevates the entire experience, making every moment feel more intense and immersive. While the PS5 version runs pretty smoothly, PC players have reported some pretty severe day one issues, ranging from missing audio to full game crashes upon launch.
Give me a break.
Thankfully, my experience was mostly free of problems, aside from the occasional long load time and 2 instances of battle sound cutting out completely.
Take this!
Another thing I want to mention, and I'm not actually sure if it's a bug or not, is that the PS5 version of the game has no vibration in the controller at all. I'm not sure if this was intentional since there aren't any options in the settings for it, but it literally feels weird to be landing heavy attacks on opponents and not being able to feel it in the controller.
I've never witnessed phenomena like this before.
If you're a fan of Bleach or anime fighters in general, there's a lot to enjoy in Rebirth of Souls. It's a mostly faithful adaptation of the Bleach universe, offering a wealth of content for fans of the anime, despite a character roster that I think is a bit too small. The story mode is massive and comprehensive, but newcomers should be prepared for long cutscenes, and while the graphics aren't especially impressive and gameplay may take some time to warm up to, it becomes much more enjoyable once you get familiar with it.
I must admit I'm surprised.
It's not a perfect anime fighter by any means, but I was still pleasantly surprised with what it offered, and between its presentation and combat, it manages to capture the spirit of Bleach in a satisfying way.
You think too highly of me.
As always though, this is just my opinion. Whether you're just starting out the Soul Reaper Academy, or you're questioning if everything you've ever seen is part of Kyokusui hypnosis, let me know in the comments what you think of Bleach Rebirth of Souls.
Right, let's end it here for today.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
I will end your life.
So slow! Get out of here! What a joke! Incredible!
Sorry.